Is the panel on energy security and independence and Greece as the energy gateway to the region, shipping, the role of shipping in the global supply chain and in energy independence and energy security. Before the panel, we are going to have Mr. Joshua Huck. He is the Chargé d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Athens, who is going to give us his keynote introduction to the panel, and then the panel will take place.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, panelists, industry leaders, friends. It's an honor to be here. So on behalf of our ambassador, Kimberly Guilfoyle, who unfortunately can't be here today, she's out of the country, but it is my distinct honor to join you all, and I'd like to start by thanking our conveners, Olga and Nikolas Bonozos, for convening this conference, bringing us all here together to discuss this important topic. And in particular, it's wonderful to be here with so many old friends and close partners and colleagues. I saw Minister Kekilias here earlier. He's a great friend and collaborator with our embassy. And to be here with so many important figures in the industry, and particularly our extremely distinguished panelists with Mr. Exarchou, Mr. Kanellakis, and Dr. Tsakos. Thank you so much for your partnership and for all the work that you do in support of our relationship. Thank you so much. The U.S. Embassy in Athens and I are also honored to have Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Transportation Affairs, Marco Sylvester, here today, all the way out from Washington, particularly to be here and join this conference today. And his presence clearly shows the importance that Washington places on the maritime industry, but on U.S.-Greece cooperation in this area in particular. I hope many of you had a chance to spend time with him. He's extremely sharp. He's read up on all these issues, and he has a lot of great ideas about how we can take this relationship forward. So those who know me know that since I arrived last July, I've been particularly interested in how we can strengthen and revitalize the U.S. maritime sector. This has been a top priority for me, and more importantly, for Ambassador Guilfoyle, our outstanding ambassador who arrived last November, but I think has now had a chance to engage with nearly every part of the shipping sector and will remain clearly and very closely engaged going forward. It's particularly a pleasure for me to be here at the Capital Link Shipping Forum because this gathering reflects not only the strength of Greece's maritime community, but also its global influence. The United States is proud of our deep collaboration and cooperation with Greece in the maritime and energy sectors, which we see as closely interlinked. That collaboration is a cornerstone of our bilateral relationship, supporting energy security, economic growth, and the free flow of commerce all around the globe. And to me, the title of this panel, Greece as Europe's Energy Gateway, Maritime Power and Transatlantic Security, could not be more timely. Today, Greece sits at the crossroads of continents, markets, and strategic interests. Greece's ports, shipping fleets, infrastructure, and people play a critical role in ensuring that Europe has access to reliable, diversified, and secure energy supplies. Moreover, it is our ever-deepening U.S.-Greece cooperation that is accelerating Greece's emergence as an energy hub for Europe and beyond. Now, this is true in many areas, but I'll give a few examples. We have, for example, the newly announced offshore exploration deals involving Chevron and Exxon, the first of their kind in Greece in decades. We also have made great strides on our joint work to advance the vertical corridor pipeline to allow U.S. LNG to flow north from Greece through Bulgaria, Romania, Moldova, and into Ukraine, literally transforming the energy map of Europe. From LNG transport and import terminal modernization and the vertical corridor, our cooperation is critical, not just for our two countries, but for the whole region. And shipping, as this distinguished group knows better than any, is key to this entire picture. It's shipping that is foundational to our shared US and European aspirations. It enables diversification of supply, it enables and reduces dependence on unreliable actors, and it secures that markets, and not coercion, are setting the rules of trade. Now, the United States, as one of the world's leading energy producers and now leading exporters, sees Greece as a trusted partner in ensuring that energy products reach global markets safely and efficiently. And it is this trust that is more important than ever. As President Trump has emphasized, the United States views Greece as a vital partner and a beacon of stability and opportunity in a complex and turbulent region. The President's positive outlook on Greece reflects our confidence in the strength of our alliance and our shared future. Now, in 2026, we will continue to face serious challenges. Geopolitical uncertainty is not going away. Security threats are evolving, becoming more hybrid, more asymmetrical, and more technologically sophisticated. At the same time, the maritime industry faces unfair competitive practices that distort markets, undermine transparency, and threaten high standards of safety, labor, and reliability. However, I am confident that together, the US and Greece, as partners, as trusted allies, can meet these challenges, deepen our cooperation, and strengthen our maritime security and resilience. By investing in trusted partners and trusted infrastructure, we can safeguard supply chains and energy flows. And by upholding the highest standards of safety, security, and compliance, we can ensure that the maritime industry remains a force for stability and prosperity. Looking ahead, there's an enormous potential for further US-Greece collaboration in the maritime and shipping space. First, we will seek to expand opportunities for US financing of shipbuilding. Second, we'll explore deepening maritime training and education to build up the knowledge base, crews, and maritime workforces of both countries. And thirdly, we'll continue to work closely with Greek companies and individuals on investment opportunities in US ports with the goal of increasing the repair and maintenance facilities in the United States and eventually shipbuilding capacity. As we move forward in 2026 and beyond, the United States looks forward to building on the already extremely strong foundation that we have established with Greece. Our alliance is not just about history, it is about the future. It's a future where energy flows are secure, commerce is free, and the seas remain a source of connection and not conflict. Greece's role as Europe's energy gateway and maritime power is not accidental. It is a result of close US-Greece cooperation and partnership, and of our shared vision, investment, and enduring commitment to openness, innovation, and excellence. On behalf of Ambassador Guilfoyle and the whole US Embassy, I want to stress that the United States is proud to be Greece's partner in this journey. Thank you for your leadership, thank you for your partnership, and I look forward to a productive discussion. Thank you all.
So, good afternoon, everybody. What I could get from the last session we had, the last panel, was that everybody that are in shipping are there because they enjoy it. I hope that is true. And thank you so much for these very insightful keynote opening remarks by Mr. Joshua Huck. I think you highlighted that the United States described Greece as a very important partner, and that you even indicate that it's maybe a stabilizing anchor in southeastern Europe, and definitely an essential entry point for the energy flow into the continent. So I think you also highlighted that in many ways Greece is now shifting from being a reliable regional partner to also becoming a strategic hub, maybe especially for LNG into the whole European continents. And thereby also being part of the kind of energy and security architecture in Europe. So I'm Morten Løvstad. I'm Vice President and Global Business Director in DNV Maritime. And I have a very distinguished panel here today. So I'd like to introduce Alexandros Exarchou, if the Greece is okay. He's chairman and CEO of AKTOR Group, and also CEO of the very newly formed Atlantic Sea LNG Trade Company. Then next is Frangiskos Kanellakis of Alpha Gas, Alpha Bulkers, Pantheon Tankers, also being the executive director there. And then last but not least, Nikolas Tsakos, who is the founder and CEO of Tsakos Energy Navigation, also former chairman of INTERTANKO, I believe. So, without further ado, I think the title of the panel today is a mouthful. But I thought I'd like to focus on exploring how Greece then becoming the energy gateway to Europe, how that will impact shipping especially. Also talk a little bit about the needed energy infrastructure that will be needed for this, and then also on transatlantic collaboration. Many claim that this energy gateway may shape both global shipping as well as Europe's future. So with this in mind, I'd like to invite Nikolas. I know that your company, you have been instrumental in the cooperation with the US. You were early listed on the US stock exchange. You have focused on energy transportation. And I noticed the news yesterday that you also placed an order for more large LNG carriers. So maybe I'd like your reflections first on how your company is contributing to this energy transition and how Greece is becoming an important energy hub.
Thank you, Morten, and Nikolas and Olga for including me here. This is a very green panel that you have included me, and thank God Mr. Angelopoulos is here to balance things out a little bit, because, of course, DNV is the greenest classification society, and Mr. Kanellakis is a very green person. But so thank you, George, for coming. So this, Morten, I'll explain to you later. It has to do with sports. Also to say that I bring my own water arena. Well, I have to say that the US administration, from its first moment, has given attention and importance to seaborne transportation. Greece represents about 30% of that segment. Up to that point, shipping was viewed not only from the US administration, also from the European and other authorities, kind of a needed evil, like a parasite industry, with very little appreciation of transporting such big part of the world energy needs with, I would say, a significant environmental footprint of about 2.6%, which is continuously getting less and less. But still, I think for the effort that has been made, shipping has been finally appreciated from the first day that you and your team came. So we really appreciate this. We want to cooperate. We are our largest clients, being the oldest publicly listed company in the New York Stock Exchange, Exxon, and these are not secrets because I know my father gets upset when I talk about clients, but it's in the 20th, so don't worry, they will find out. So Exxon is 22% of our business, and we are very involved with them in offshore drilling, because you mentioned that, in Brazil and West Africa. And our next project is a big project in Brazil together with Exxon.
Thank you for that quite extensive elaboration on your role. It's clear that you play a very important role. I'd like to give the word to you, Frangiskos. Energy is flowing into the market. It's oil, it is LNG, and also we hear that it will be increased volumes of Atlantic LNG trades. How is that your company adapting to that?
First of all, thank you for having me here. It's an honor. Our company, first of all, is investing a lot in green solutions in shipping. aligning with global efforts to reduce maritime emissions. We are applying voyage optimization on our existing fleet, hull maintenance, real-time performance monitoring, and other measures that are readily available today. It's a difficult subject, of course. Going now to the importance of the US and Greece relationship. Our company is a very small part in this value chain, but very insignificant. But we have a diversified, privately owned fleet of around 100 vessels, operated through Alpha Bulkers, Pantheon, and Alpha Gas, with very low leverage. And we consistently invest in LNG carriers. We are building right now some VLACs capable of burning LPG and also capable of carrying not only LPG but also ammonia. And recently we also ordered some dual-fuel LNG Suezmax tankers capable of using LNG as a fuel. Through Alpha Gas outfit, we technically and commercially operate around 8 vessels, and recently we ordered another 2 LNG ships from Hanwha Ocean. All our ships are built from South Korean shipyards, and we have a long track record in safe operations, proven by the trust that we enjoy from our very valuable charterers such as Cheniere, JRGM, SEFE, and very recently from Gale. Therefore, we believe that we are quite well positioned as a company to capture the opportunity that has risen with these increased US LNG export volumes to Europe and potentially through Greece as an entry point of American LNG. We believe that we have built our company, in our opinion, quite well to enjoy this moment. And we hope that everything will go well. And we are proud also of Greece as a country and our government that has made such a progress recently when it comes to energy infrastructure, developing LNG terminals, expanding LNG regas capacity in Revithoussa and Alexandroupolis, and many other things like port modernization, improving and revitalizing shipyards such as Elefsina, and most importantly, trying to implement energy diversification by shifting from Russian reliance to US LNG.
Thank you. Moving to you, Alexandros, and more into the infrastructure part, although it's already been touched upon. I'd like to ask you, I mean, we know Greece is investing heavily in LNG infrastructure especially, and cross-border corridors are being invested in. We heard about the vertical gas corridor. In your opinion, how does this, what does it really mean to the energy security in Europe, and how is your company involved in that?
I represent Atlantic LNG, a newly established company where AKTOR holds 60% and DEPA 40%, with the sole purpose of actually trading US LNG to the vertical corridor countries, which is Albania, Northern Macedonia, Romania, Bulgaria, Moldova, and Ukraine. So that's the reason for which we are discussing this newly established idea of the vertical corridor, which is not very new. It has been discussed for many years, but now I think what has happened with the war in Ukraine and the results of the European states understanding that this dependency, and of course, problem that is created by the dependency of Russian gas, we recently have significant developments on that front, where Russian gas is now forbidden after 2007. And very recently, last week, also Azerian gas is to some extent forbidden because it's considered Russian unless proven otherwise, which is a very difficult presumption to overcome. Which means that in practice, European Union has no longer, states, I mean the member states of European Union, have no longer access to pipeline gas. So what was actually the overall consumption of European Union, which we are referring to, which is Russia and Azeria, it was 80% of the overall consumption of gas, which is now not available. So everything now depends on LNG. And LNG, of course, is not only American, it's not only US, it's Qatar, it's Australia, but LNG nevertheless, which means significantly more expensive, or at least more expensive than pipeline gas. But that's reality. Pipeline gas is no longer available here. So we have to prepare for LNG consumption for the next foreseeable future, many decades. We believe we are looking at securing 20 years agreements down the line for US LNG. And I think the whole market of gas in Europe have changed, together with the dependency on one source of energy, which was Russia. LNG is not, doesn't have one source. I repeat, it is Qatar, it is US, and it's Australia as well. However, what we're looking to achieve as Atlantic is to secure as much long-term agreements as possible on the back of US LNG, of course. We are doing that. And why that? Because that will allow us to improve the infrastructure. Now, the problem with infrastructure is significant here. We have Rebitusa, which is all right. It performs works, but we are limited quantities. We have an FSRU in Alexandros that experiences operational problems, and a pipeline which is clearly unable to satisfy the quantities we are talking about. I will give you an example of the existing pipeline abilities. Quantities coming from the north to the south can be facilitated up to 5 BCM per year, whereas quantities coming from the south, i.e. from Greece, to the north, i.e. Ukraine, cannot exceed 2 BCM per year. This obviously facilitates pipeline gas, which was moving from the north to the south, yes, but not LNG, which requires sea and therefore requires a movement from the south to the north. And unless this is fixed, it is obviously impossible to facilitate quantities as much as necessary for 2007, where Russian gas will not be available, which will, we assume it will be something about 15 BCM per year, 1.5. So we need a second FSRU, that's for certain, if we are to facilitate quantities of this nature. And we need to improve the infrastructure if it is possible to be improved to the extent that we're talking 15 BCM and not 5. And maybe what will become necessary is a new pipeline. So infrastructure-wise, apart from other shipping necessities, which is we need, obviously, more LNG carriers, but I see the ship owners have already started buying left, right, and center. Mr. Tsakos bought 2 or 4, I don't remember, I think I was reading yesterday, and I see everybody is getting as much LNG carriers as they can do, which makes sense, because obviously, for a foreseeable future, Europe will depend very much on LNG, and therefore the LNG carriers.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, since you mentioned that there is kind of non-existing pipeline capacity, how quickly can that infrastructure scale, in your mind?
Oh, well, as quickly as we will manage to finalize the long-term agreements we're discussing, we will expedite infra, because you cannot spend for infrastructure before you secure sizable quantities. So I'm very much hoping that very soon, I'm hoping those that when we come back from DC, we will have a very good idea by the end of the month of the quantities of offtake agreements that we're capable of signing in order to facilitate, to actually start looking the capex necessary to improve the pipeline. In the first phase, improve it. Then I rely very much on a G or various G2G agreements for creation of a second pipeline, which will be another issue altogether. That will take time, but improving the existing pipeline will not be as time-consuming as one would think, and I think we will be there by the beginning of 2028 if we start immediately.
2028. You also mentioned the need for another FSRU. Maybe Nikolas, is that something, is that in mind for you?
Well, as I said, and I think as Fulford, who's here, who's the grandfather of LNG, I mean, he's not that old, but that's his title for many, many years. And as I think Mr. Exarchou said, ships are being built more efficiently than actually the infrastructure. And that's why we always have this anomaly in the LNG market. I mean, right now you have a big number of ships. If you sit down and try to analyze the projects that are out there, you think that you need more ships. But again, as you say, infrastructure takes a lot of environmental legislation, it gets governmental approvals, whereas ships are being built in 2.5 years. So this is an anomaly that we as ship owners will have to deal with. But in the long term, we believe in the LNG market, in the future of the LNG market, and of course a big part of it is the FSRU. I mean, we've done storage projects with our vessels around the world, and it's a very good way to utilize good quality vessels.
Thank you. Joshua, you already gave a quite extensive good insight into the US-Greek cooperation. But we hear that energy security is becoming a cornerstone of the transatlantic strategy. How is the US-Greek relationship evolving in this space, and how do you see that evolving in the next years?
Yes, thank you very much, Morten. And I would just say I certainly agree with the comments of the fellow panelists. I think that's exactly right. And I think what we're seeing right now between the U.S. and the EU, look, you can go back to the trade deal that was reached last year. $750 billion in energy was agreed by the EU to be exported from the United States. So clearly that comes from somewhere, and overwhelmingly you would think that's going to be LNG, which ties in to the broader need, again, as Mr. Exarchou rightly put it, to this need to move away from Russian sources, which will be forbidden under EU laws starting next year. Already the spot market is off. So this is all part of something that we need to be working on together. And the way I see it, it's three different lines of effort that all need to be coordinated. It's the infrastructure, as was just mentioned. It's the contracts, which was also mentioned by Mr. Exarchou, and that's incredibly important to have those in place as well. The off-takers, so that you know who's bringing, what American suppliers or what other countries or suppliers are bringing in the gas, and where they'll be off-taken up farther down the line. But then there's also a harmonization part, and this is where we also need the EU's support to make sure that the regulations aren't impeding fair progress and competition along the route, so that that gas can be, liquefied natural gas can be brought in to Greece and competitively moved up the line. All of those things need to work together, and there's an enormous amount of work going into that, which is taking place. So there's an EU component, there's a US component, but critically at the heart of all that is Greece. And that's where the US and Greece, really since the start of this administration, but supercharged since the arrival of our very dynamic ambassador, has been really at the heart of everything we've been doing. You saw, last November, the PTEC conference. We had not only Secretary of Interior Burgum coming for his second time, but also Secretary of Interior Wright and multiple other players that are key to US energy policy. That's not an accident. It's because we really see Greece as a cornerstone of the changing energy architecture in this region. And fundamentally, the wiring of this part of Europe, which for so long has been east-west, it's been from Russia west, can now be north-south. And that will have really long-term implications for a long time to come. And Greece is at the heart of that transformation.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very clear strategy. Moving on to the last topic, which is maybe a little bit less clear, I would say, and maybe listening to some of the panels earlier today, it's still not clear, I think. It's about decarbonization of shipping and the pace we are moving there. And we talked a lot about LNG as an energy source. But it's rather controversial maybe to talk about LNG as the kind of fuel of the future for shipping and part of the decarbonization. I think, Frangiskos, you already touched upon it. Maybe your thoughts on LNG's role in part of decarbonization shipping.
Yes, shipping and decarbonization had until very recently some certain cornerstones. There was a postponement now with IMO. but we believe that LNG in its pathway complies to most of these cornerstones and is the most viable and practical solution for decarbonizing the maritime space. LNG vessels are built today, can also burn net zero bio-LNG in the future, and maybe even e-LNG produced from renewable electricity as it becomes available in the future. LNG is also abundant, has abundant supply as a base product, and it can act as a critical bridge or transitional fuel for maritime decarbonization, offering immediate environmental benefits, quite significant actually, 23% fewer greenhouse gas emissions compared to traditional fuel oil. And we have also quite an expanding global network for LNG bunkering, which will help a lot this transition. The only difficulty that is still there is how we will handle and manage methane slip, which is a technical challenge to maximize environmental benefits. In my opinion, most likely a hybrid pathway will dominate. LNG today, bio-LNG and renewables will scale in the midterm, and e-fuels long-term, supported by some digitalization and energy-efficient solutions.
Thank you. Nikolas, maybe you want to add something?
Well, I think Frangiskos very elegantly explained the situation, and I agree we should, that the industry should, at this stage that we are in, we should stop demonizing LNG. I think, as you said, you have an infrastructure. I mean, we're talking here for the next 20 years of bringing LNG, and on the other hand, we don't want to use it as a source. I think reducing the methane slip is something that we can, the industry and the shipyards and the engine makers can really make a progress. I think when we ordered our first LNG, I think the methane slip was close to 1.5. These recent negotiations that you referred to, we're talking about 0.7. And that's, you know, so if we put our mind into reducing that, instead of trying to come up with exotic ideas that could be inefficient and could be expensive, I think, you know, I'm a big supporter. All of us here are big supporters of that from here to 2050. I mean, after that, my son and my grandson will deal with it. You know, I'll be, you know, playing golf. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandros, I mean, although you're more into the infrastructure part, I mean, for use of LNG for shipping, you also need bunkering infrastructure, obviously. Is that something you would be looking into also, or how do you see it?
I would like to pick up from Mr. Tsakos saying, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's time for Europe really to start to cease looking these exotic ideas, which are extremely expensive, time-consuming, and actually face reality. And reality is that for the foreseeable future, at least 2 decades from now, LNG is a reality. We need it, regardless how much we will invest and how reasonably we will invest in green energy. It is impossible to get rid of LNG or liquefied or natural gas, whether it's LNG or natural gas, it doesn't make any difference, the same thing. So we need to start being pragmatic and realistic in Europe, stop spending huge amount of money and becoming more and more expensive and less able to compete with anybody else on Earth. And when we do that, and one of it is the vertical corridor and LNG necessities, then we may improve our financial and leverage as opposed to China, US, and Russia.
Very good. Aware of the time, I think I give the last word, a question to Joshua. It's a lot of nice talks about the import of US LNG. We know that although the price may be attractive when it comes out of Henry Hub, we know that also by the time it enters into Greece and distributed throughout Europe, the price is much higher. How can do you see that we could create a framework to make that energy more affordable? Because we all heard earlier today that, business matters.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the question. I guess I'd say a couple of things about that. One is there's been quite a bit of analysis on the actual price breakdown, and I've seen, in fact, there may even be colleagues in the audience that have been part of developing that paper, but the title is it's the myth of expensive U.S. LNG. And when you actually break down the numbers, is there a marginal increase? Yes. But we're not talking about a massive amount, right? So the trick is really a matter of reducing that margin. We're not talking like double. It's a matter of a narrow margin, but that we need to get it down as small as possible, right? So that's one. But and I'll talk about a little bit how about that could be done. But the second piece of it is, remember, there is, I served in Bulgaria. I spent 3 years in Sofia, Bulgaria, to the north, and spent a very cold winter 1 year when the gas was turned off and Russian supply disappeared. So there is a premium that you pay, or again, a marginal amount that you would be willing to pay to ensure reliability. That's right, security, reliability. Knowing that you're going to have it, knowing that the source would not be a source of, for example, the corruption that we've seen from Russian energy companies all over Europe over the past decades, the coercion that the Russian state, the government has used and weaponized energy as a tool all over Europe for decades. So that is worth something to avoid, right? So that's part of it. It's the reliability premium. Still, the goal is going to be to shrink that margin as low as possible, and there's a lot of ways to do that. Part of that is the tariff harmonization that I mentioned, making sure that each country along the line is reducing the amount that they are taking off of it to a point that's reasonable and equitable, and then increasing through economies of scale the amount that moves through the pipeline to the point that it gets relatively cheaper and cheaper. So it's all of those things that need to come together, but it's something that's absolutely achievable through partnership and cooperation. But it is something that no one country can do. The U.S. can't wave a wand and make it cheaper. It's going to need to be the EU, Greece, the countries along the vertical corridor all working together.
Thank you very much. I got the notice that we could actually afford one more question since it's an interesting topic. So I'd like to ask maybe to Alexandros, since it's about what are the risks that could undermine the progress we see now on LNG? It's been ups and downs. And I mean, what could happen, if the Ukraine war is stopped? Would that impact the development of the energy import into Europe? How do you see that?
Well, I cannot imagine what will happen when the war is over, but I'm sure the ban that just imposed by European Union against Russian gas will not be lifted in the foreseeable future. So the reality here, and I would like to comment the previous question to some extent. I've been faced the last few months constantly with this rumor or accusation that US LNG is more expensive. And I ask, more expensive in comparison to what? If we compare LNG in comparison to pipeline natural gas, I agree, LNG by definition is more expensive. It needs to be transported, it needs to be liquefied, and clearly, generally, LNG is more expensive than, because it costs more. But when you don't have pipeline gas available, you compare LNG to what? So the correct question is US LNG more expensive than Qatari LNG or more expensive than Australian LNG? And the answer will be no. So it's LNG and it's not pipeline natural gas. So we need to adjust ourselves to the new reality. Now, European Union needs to face the fact that necessarily as a result of its own decisions to ban Russian gas and Azerian gas, eventually there is a risk that they will pay a little bit more, and I say a little bit more, not huge amounts, if it secures two things. A, long-term agreements, and I understand the agreement signed with the US for $750 billion for US LNG is towards that direction, but long-term agreements will give some certainty in price and will also secure quantities. The biggest, in my opinion, risk for European Union and its member states is that after 27, and especially after 2030, securing quantities will not be a given. This is more risky than the price, because when you don't have quantities, when you cannot secure natural gas, then the price is uncontrollable. So and this is what I don't understand when I see all this, let's say, hesitation on the part of various European countries to enter into long-term agreements of 20 years. By doing that, they secure a price that they will negotiate today, when there is a comparison, psychological one, to Russian and Azerian. It's a psychological thing, but it still exists. And they will secure quantities for a period of time that is not a given that Europe can facilitate all its consumption in terms of gas from LNG. So if there is any risk, is this, and in my opinion, that risk will be solved, and hopefully will be solved with long-term agreements with US LNG. And I'm hoping very much that this will be understood by the 24th, Josh. So when that will happen, we will be able to improve the infra necessary in order to be able to deliver on time.
So with that, I think maybe we could close on a positive note. At least if I should summarize what I hear here is that the US LNG is affordable. It is an important part of energy security into Europe. And infrastructure is being scaled up, although it takes some time. There is willingness also to expand on the shipping fleet needed to do the transportation across Atlantic. And LNG is also part of the green transition in shipping. So it's been a long day, so I want to thank all of you for keeping up with us. And thank you to the panel for very good insights. Thank you so much.